number 8. So number 8, if you put these answer choices into your table function, we already know which one is the right answer, but everybody put answer choice B into your table. Answer choice B into the table function of your calculator. When you put it into your table, does your table look like this table? Yes? Yes? Do we all see how that works? The biggest difference is you just have to make sure you look at these x values, 0, 2, and 6. Your table will show you 0, 1, and 2. You need to scroll down until you see 0, 2, and 6. Does that make sense to everyone? Does anybody have any questions about that one? No? We're good. Okay, now we're going to look at number 15. Oh, so sorry. I think I might have meant 16. 16 parts A and B. When I actually meant to put not 15 comes 16. Okay, so when you have these two, it's the same thing. You're going to put this into your table. Put that first equation right up here in the table. Once somebody's got it, help me fill in those blanks. Table. You got it, Jonathan? What are the numbers? -1 and what? Okay, now that we have our table, you can type in these different answer choices until you see a table that looks just like this one. You put this one and then 16 part A. Oh. So once you put this one in, you just write down a table. And then part A, everybody try typing in answer choice B because we do know that's the right answer. If you type in answer choice B, then you should have a table that looks just like this one. Same thing for part A. Whenever they're asking, the keyword I look for is equivalent. Normally, if it says equivalent, that means that your table should be the same. They're equal. The factored form is just rewriting it another way. I always talk about the factored form being like synonyms. It's the difference of saying hi or saying hello. One of them is a little bit longer, but they both are greetings. They both mean the same thing. Does that make sense? Any questions about those two problems? No? So if you see equivalent form, you know to do table twinsies. If you see a table, you know to do table twinsies. Okay, so the next one is 19. So for 19, which expression represents the total area? The total area is represented by this, but which one represents the total area? That means that they're going to be the same thing. So again, you can do table twinsies. So if you type this first really long one into table, Good? What do we get? -2. Once you've got that, you can type in answer choice D and see if it's the same thing. Obviously, if you were doing this on the real test, you wouldn't know that D is the right answer, so you go through all of them. But eventually, you should see that there's a table twinsy, right? Any questions about that? No? We're all getting table twinsies. All right, the last one is 21B. For 21B, you're putting it into your table, and how do I find a y-intercept? Is it going to be 0, 1 or 1, 0? Which one is y-intercept? Zero, 1 is what we're looking for in our table. So when you type in these, you're looking for one that has x 0 and y 1. Any questions about that? So once you type that in, you're going to look for one. It's looking for one with y. The same thing. You do the same thing and try to find the table picture. Okay. How are we feeling? Good? All right, we're going to go back to the beginning. Okay. So for this first one, it says, how much does she charge for each necklace? So this equation, it represents profit. Can anybody tell me what profit means? I heard growth somewhere. It is sort of like growth. How do we come up with that growth? If I'm making something, and I'm selling cookies, right? It costs me money to make those cookies, right? But then I sell those cookies and I'm selling them for $2 each. If I want to find out how much money I make total, do I just add together how many I sell? I do, but then I have to subtract what I spent at the beginning, right? That's what profit is. Profit is your income minus your cost. It's how much you charge someone, how much money you make, minus how much money you spend, and that's how much money you have. That's your profit. So, if we're looking for how much she charges, which part of the equation is how much she charges? The green or the red? The green is how much she charges. So how much does she charge per necklace? 7.5. So that's $7.50. Does that one make sense to y'all? Now let's say you didn't know what profit was because they don't tell you what it means, right? What I would be doing if I were you is eliminating the answer choices that don't make sense. So it's saying for each necklace, and since in represents necklace, I can guess that it's either going to be 7.5 or 2.25. So elimination, I should eliminate C and D. That way you have a 50-50 shot, right? Always use those tools to try to get you down to a 50-50 shot. Okay, number 2. So for this one, we're just solving for W. What's the first thing I need to do to get W by itself? Not divide yet. There's something else I have to get rid of first. Subtract 2L. Perfect. Now what do I do, Victor? Divide by 2. Okay? So once you simplify, you get P over 2 minus L equals W, which is answer choice D. Did everybody get that? I had our other class got stuck here. They said they divided by 2 over this whole thing, and they said the answer choice isn't there. Did anybody else run into that problem? No? We all did it right? Okay. Cool. Next problem. Okay, so for the next one, this is a lot of words, and it can be really intimidating, right? But go ahead and skip to part A, and it says, explain why the inequality incorrectly models this situation. It tells you that it's wrong. You just have to figure out why it's wrong. Okay, so let's look at the numbers that have to do with that equation. I'm going to pull out my handy dandy highlighter. So we're looking for the number 1250. We're looking for $5 per shirt and $8 per banner. Okay? When we're talking about $5 per shirt and $8 per banner, is that how much they are costing the company to make them, or is that how much they're selling them for? How much it's costing them. It says cost, production costs, producing them. Okay? They want to spend no more than $1,250. They want to spend no more than. Can they spend more than that money? No. So they want numbers that are what? Less than. What is this symbol right here? What is it? What symbol did they use? They used greater than or equal to. This one is actually greater than. Do we want a quick review of those symbols? Yes. Okay, great. My trick, I don't use the L for less than because sometimes it faces the other way. I talk about the symbol. Which side of the symbol is bigger, the left or the right? Which side of it is bigger? This side or this side? This side, right? Right here? This opening is bigger, right? So I would read it, wow, so sorry, 5 bigger than 4. Does that make sense? So 5 is greater than 4. So I look for the side that is bigger. So if it was the other way, I could say x is smaller than 5 because the small side of the arrow is pointing here. Or I could read it the other way and say 5 is bigger than x. Does that make sense? That's how I remember the symbols. I look at which side of the symbol is bigger. And that tells me whether it is less than or greater than. So going back to that, we said we want to spend less than $1,250. But this symbol says that my costs are bigger than that number. But we just said that was wrong, right? And they told us it was wrong, and they said write the answer why. So the way we wrote it, the inequality uses the wrong symbol. It should be less than or equal to. You don't have to sound fancy when you say it. You can say they couldn't spend that much money, so the sign should be the other way. The sign should be less than or equal to because nobody wants to spend more money than what they have. They said no more than. Whatever way you want to phrase it, as long as you say why the inequality symbol is wrong, then you're totally fine. Any questions about that first inequality problem? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Good? Okay. So the next one, explain why this one is correct. Okay, so we're talking about how much money they want to make, right? So we have this equation. I'm going to look for those numbers in the problem. $3,000, $15, $20, great. Okay, so they say they want their revenue to be greater than $3,000. What symbol did they use? I heard it. Greater than. They used greater than. They said they wanted greater than. They told us it was right, so you just say that. You can write down the words from up in the problem. The inequality shows that the revenue from shirts plus the revenue from banners is greater than the company's revenue goal of $3,000. If it were me, this is probably even more writing than I would do. I would say the inequality is correct because the problem says greater than $3,000 and the symbol says greater than $3,000. That's how I would say it. If it were me, I would write the word problem and I'd put it in quotation, says greater than $3,000. And the symbol they used was greater than. That's all I would write. Ms. K wrote more, which is totally fine. If you want to write more, write more. I like to keep it simple. Any questions about this inequality? No questions? We sure? Okay, next one. Okay. Okay, so for this one, we're talking about the number of hours she spends studying. It says she spends at least 10 hours per week. Could she spend more hours? Yeah, she could spend more than 10 hours, right? So this line represents 10 hours, some combination of 10 hours. If she spends more than that, that would be above the line. Does that make sense? So that's why we're picking the ones that are shaded above the line. So if you're using process of elimination, you should be able to eliminate C and A. Okay. All right, so from there, the only question is, should it be a dotted line or a solid line? When do we use each one? Who knows? Who can guess? Okay, so the difference between a solid and a dotted line has to do with whether it's underlined or not. Which one do we think is the solid line? Greater than or equal to or greater than? Greater than or equal to. Perfect. This one is our solid line. And the way I remember it is when you graph a line that says y equals something, do you do a dotted line or a solid line? If you were to graph y equals mx plus b. You use a solid line, right? And that's the equals part of it. So since this has greater than or equal to, you have a solid line. So could she spend exactly 10 hours studying? Yeah, it says at least. But she could spend exactly 10 hours studying, so we know that it's greater than or equal to. So that's why we're using B, because it has a solid line. Any questions about inequality, shading? Do we know which way to shade? Do we know when to use solid versus dotted? Okay. Next question. Oh, sorry, there was one at the bottom of the page. Just kidding. Okay, so the set of ordered pairs are shown. We're looking for ones, put your phone away. We are looking for ones that are allowing f to remain a function. When is it not a function? When the x is repeat. So these answer choices, -3, -3 isn't one. So it would stay a function. But right here, there's a 4 in the x and a 4 in the x, so I'm going to cross it off. There's a 0 and a 0, I cross it off. A -5 and a -5, I cross it off. Any questions about this one? Would this point be a point? Would it still be, keep it a function? Yes? Yes or no? Raise your hand if you think yes, it would keep it a function. Raise your hand if you think no, it would make it not a function. Well, only 2 people raised their hand, but those 2 people were correct. This point, this x, even though there's a -5, that doesn't matter. I'm only looking for a +5. There's not a +5 in that list. Therefore, it would still be a function. Okay. This next one. We're talking about sequences. This equation is going to be on your formula sheet, and you are allowed to use your formula sheet. How many of you have your formula sheets with you? In your folder, pull them out if you have them in your folder. So we're looking for explicit function on your formula sheet. It's on there twice. Can somebody give me one of the explicit function formulas? Okay, there's one under arithmetic and one under geometric. The explicit formula for one of them is a sub n equals a1 plus n minus 1 times d. The other one is a sub n equals a1 times r to the n minus 1. I got both of those from your formula sheet. All I did was look for the word explicit. Okay. What's the pattern here? Are they adding or multiplying? Multiplying. Very good. So since they are multiplying, which one is the correct equation? Arithmetic or geometric? Which one is multiplying? Geometric. Geometric means multiplying. The way you can remember that is on your formula sheet. It is next to exponential, and we remember exponential has an x in the exponent, and it uses an x because it's multiplying over and over and over again. So the correct equation we should be using is this blue one right here. So I need to know what my a sub 1 is. What is my a sub 1? 16, I say it's my A1 since day one. It's the first term. So we have A sub n equals 16 times R. What do we think our R is? How do we get our R? What is our R? Our common ratio. Our common ratio is what we're multiplying by each time. You could guess and check. 3. And then multiply by 3. If we don't remember how to guess and check, you can always divide. So you would do 48 divided by 16, and that will tell you your R. So if you have 48 divided by 16, that gives you 3. Then you just leave your n minus 1. Look, that happens to be the same equation that Ms. K came up with. Yay, we did it right. Then it says explain how you determine your answer. Literally, you're going to write what we just came up with. You can say the first term was 16, so I knew that was my A1. And then each term is multiplying by 3. So R equals 3. We did it in the opposite order that she did, but it's still correct. Any questions about this explicit sequence? I'll leave it up here for a couple seconds longer. So for this next one, okay, so for this next one, it says it takes Matt m months to save $1,000. Write an equation that models the average number of dollars X Matt saves each month. Okay, do we know how many months it took him? In just part A. Does it tell us how many months? No. And they gave us a variable, right? They said after m months, he saves a certain amount of money. How much money did he save? $1,000. Do we know how much he saved each month? No. What did they tell us to use to represent it? Okay. After 1 month, how much money would he have saved? After 1 month. We don't know how much money, but they told us to use X, right? So after 1 month, he would have saved X amount of dollars. After 2 months, how much money would he have saved? He would have had the amount of money that he had before, right? He would have had X dollars, plus each month he saves another X, right? What's X plus X? What's 1X plus 1X? 2X. So for 2, it's the same thing as 2X, right? So see how the number of months is just right in front of M, or is right in front of X? They're multiplying each time. So I know it's going to be 1,000 equals MX. Does that make sense? Is that really confusing to anyone? Another way you can think about it is if you think of slope, y equals mx plus b, right? He started with nothing, so his b is 0. And then your mx is your slope. So each month is slope, right? Per month. So that's how they got mx. If that helps you understand it more, I don't know. Nobody's saying anything to me. Okay. Part B. It takes him 20 months to save $1,000. Explain how you could use your equation from part A to find the average number of dollars that Matt saves each month. Okay, let's just start with plugging in the information they gave us. So we know our equation, 1,000 equals mx. Do I plug in 20 for m or for x? M, because m is the number of months, and it takes him m months. So we plug in 20x, right? Okay, so now what do I do? Divide. What do I end up with? $50. So all you have to do is put that into words. 20 is the number of months. So 1,000 equals 20x. Then divide by 20 to get x equals 50. That's all you have to do. I know that it seems intimidating because there are more words and you have to use words, but all you're doing is putting into words what you did with the math. I always wrote out my steps first on the side, and then I put it into words. Because I would have gotten confused if I tried to write it all in words. So I did the math first, and then I just wrote down what I did. Well, first I plugged in 20. So 1,000 equals 20x. Then to get x by itself, I divide by 20. The answer is x equals 50. Any questions? Okay, this answer sheet will be online. I'm going to go ahead to number 9 since we already did number 8. Okay. Looking at this equation, which equation does it look like on your formula sheet? What type? Linear, exponential, or quadratic? Exponential. So looking at the exponential equation as y equals ab to the x. Explain what the parameter 2,400 represents. So I'm going to highlight that number. I'm going to highlight that number. What do we think it represents? Is that it's in the place of my A, right? What does my A stand for? Does anybody remember? It's the y-intercept. Perfect, Victor. So it's the y-intercept, but in this example, what is the y-intercept? It is 2,400. What does the 2,400 represent? She owns a graphic design store. She purchases a new printer to use in her store, and then it depreciates by a fixed amount. So it's what it starts at, right? It's the initial value of the printer in dollars. It's how much it was worth at the beginning, the initial amount. If you put that it was the y-intercept, I guarantee you would give partial credit. see, at what rate does the value of the printer increase or decrease each year? What's the rate? Where would I find that? Right here? Each year? 0.86. Is the value of the printer going to go up over time, or is it going to go down? It's going to go down over time. So we know it's going to be decreasing each year. How do we figure out the rate? Yes, we're going to do 1 minus 0.86. 1 would be if it stays the same. So what is 1 minus 0.86? 0.14, very good. So 0.14, at what rate would it decrease? At what rate would it decrease? 14% decrease each year. Then she did what we just did on the board, and she just put it into words. 0.86, which comes from subtracting 1 minus r, which is what Victor told me. So that's what our rate is. What is the value after 5 years? You just plug in 5 for t. So you have the equation v equals 2400 times 0.86 times t. Instead of t, you plug in 5. So keep in mind, with these constructive response questions, you may not know how to do the first 2 parts. But that third part, most of you should have known to plug in 5 for t. It was the only place to plug it in, right? So even if you don't know how to do the first 2 parts, make sure you read the whole problem, all of its parts. Please do not just shut down and click through your test, because I guarantee that there are problems that you know how to do. So once you plug in 5 and you round it, this should be your final answer. Any questions about those 3 parts? Okay. Oh, just kidding, there were problems at the bottom again. Isn't it extended today? No, shouldn't be. It's testing, but it's not long testing. Okay, number 10. This function is shifted 2 units up. Which function correctly represents the new function? If I were to shift up an equation, what would I do? If it's going up. So if I had y equals x, what would I do to shift it up 2 units? If I wanted to shift it up 2 units, I would add 2, right? Big plus 2, that's what shifts it up. So if I want to shift this equation up 2, I have f of x equals 3x minus 9, and then I shift it up 2. What if I combined like terms? What's negative 9 plus 2? Negative 7. So we have 3x minus 7. Does that make sense to everyone? Any questions about how I got that answer? If y'all are going to be on your phones, I'm going to stop teaching. Any questions about that one? Great. This is the last one I'm doing this period. Number 11. Which part of this equation is the slope? How did you know that part was the slope, Victor? It's with the x. So we know that the slope is 6. Which answer choices can I eliminate? B and D. So the slope is 4, get rid of it. The slope is 4, get rid of it. So now we have a 50-50 shot. So the next question, what part is my y-intercept? 4. And what does that mean in the context of this word problem? So if we're talking about the y-intercept, it's what we start with, right? So it says that y is the number of birds per acre in a neighborhood. Okay? So if there, how would I write the y-intercept as a point? You told me it was 4. How would I write it? Would it be 0, 4 or 4, 0? 0, 4. So x is the number of trees, right? So 0 trees, 4 birds. Does one of the answer choices say that? 0 trees, 4 birds? Which one? C. The average number of birds per acre in an area with no trees is 4. 0, 4. Does that make sense? The pieces that you were looking at, once you had it down to a 50-50 shot, was the last sentences of each one. For every 1 additional tree, she can expect 4 birds per acre. Does it ever say 4 birds per acre? No, but it does say 6 birds per acre because of our slope. We're adding 6 birds per acre. Okay. That's the last one for this period. Please, 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 right now, do not just get on your phones because next period we are going over the rest of this. I've already done a couple problems in there. Go through and see what you can figure out. So you have 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, and 18. I think I've done all the rest. It's not very many problems for you to do. Please do them now. Work for the rest of class. I do not want to see your phones out.
I'm